As I say, I can pay 52 pickup right now with what my apprentice pulled for me in one day on the studies. And 95% of the studies that are done are, in fact, mega reviews. There's nobody lining up to get in the line to die. And you couldn't do them anyway, they'd be unethical. You wouldn't be allowed to do a study where if you get in this line, you're going to die, probably, in that one. So the majority of these are mega reviews. And I have to also say, which is even more disgusting to me, not only are mega reviews, but they're usually mega reviews done in developing or recovering countries. I got 1 million out of India. I mean, I don't know how the country is crowded. I mean, I've got 1 million here. And so we don't, and they're all set up, and the studies that are done are all set up differently. They've got different, guidelines and this and this. So it's really difficult to compare. You've got a bunch of apples, but you've got Fijis and Fujis and granny apples and all this kind of stuff. So it's difficult to come up with something. So what they've come up with instead, since they can't look at the safety, they've come up with the word that they use, which I love the word, efficacy. And efficacy means time and money. How much do I have to give you in what place to get a baby out in 24 hours? And that's the test of efficacy. And that's what they're looking at. And they all say at the bottom, in the future, we should really look at issues of safety. But they don't do that. They're only looking at efficacy. Because they can grade that. They've got, when did you come in, when did we give you, when did the baby fall out, or when did something bad happen? And we keep just saying, but one day we're going to look at the safety. But that day has never come. If we can't figure out the dosage and the route of administration, how can we even look at safety? Okay? Now, as to how do you practice in the belly of the beast? Sis, I wish I could tell you. All I know is I can't. I can't. And what scares me is that midwives have caught this.
Right.
Yes.
And that's the thing. I think if you look at it from a systematic approach, the most important thing we can do at this point is educate the folk who can come in and advocate. So I'm talking about the doulas, the childbirth educators. The nurses do need the information, but let's not pretend that the nurses are going to be empowered enough to risk their job by holding that doctor's hand aside. Right? Let's not get crazy now. So we have to look at who else is coming. The doulas are effective because they can influence and support the women prior to them getting in the door. And if they can't get them then, even during labor, they can give them the true informed consent that no one else seems to be able to get to them. So we need a better approach of educating the periphery rather than literally, like you said, the belly of the beast itself. Because I don't think we're going to get that shift in any kind of, timely fashion.
Because remember, the obstetric model is that birth is a disease and a sickness.
And it can be controlled.
And the longer you're in labor, it's like the Jaws music is playing, right? The longer you're in labor, something going to happen. So we need to get this over as fast as possible before something happens. And when you have that kind of waiting for something bad happen, instead of this is natural, birds fly, fish swim, whatever it's going to happen, outlook, you don't focus on the pregnant individual. You don't focus on that. You focus on what am I going to happen when this catastrophe happens. And so you want to get bad over as fast as possible. And so time, plus the money factor, and plus I can get somebody else in this room, flip this bad boy a couple times in 24 hours, I can bill a lot for that.
Was mentioned in the video, you agree upon a certain amount of money, and then there's a gag order. And what happens for a lot of these families is they have been reliving that event every single time they have to go in front of a judge or go in front of a lawyer and be depositioned or talk to the nursing staff. Every time they have to relive it, and after a while, for some people, it's too much. They've already lost a family member, they've already lost a baby, and so they just want it to be over. And so then money comes, and maybe they never cared about the money in the beginning, but it's like, I just don't want to tell this story anymore. You're inciting trauma over and over and over on these people, and for them, it's like, I can't do it anymore. Which is why Maddie is so incredible, because she's inflicting this on herself. That's a big piece of it. The other piece is that a lot of the people that are being affected are poor. They don't have a lawyer to call to say, you know, my baby's baby died and we need a lawyer and this hospital did something wrong. They're going to go like this. Okay, well, sure, we'll help you. That's going to be like $100,000. We can put on a payment plan. We can mortgage your house. And these families are going like this. Oh, okay. And then those are the same people that they just crumble. They just fall inside. They just go inside. And what it does in regards to the piece that Jennie was talking about in regards to the health disparities of Black and brown people, there's already a huge distrust with the medical field. I'll just say Tuskegee, that's it. There's a huge distrust. And so to already have that distrust and then to lose a family member to this drug because of an induction, to lose their baby because of an induction, and to be poor and not be able to fight back or feel like they can't fight back, they just disappear. They just disappear into the ethos. We have more power now because we have social media, and so some of these people are going there and getting their stories out, and then someone else latches on and then they share it, and it gets spreads like wildfire. But for the most part, these are poor people, and their biggest issue is how are they going to feed the children that they already have? Or if the mother dies and the baby's left behind, like what happened in Los Angeles, I forgot about this. Last year, we had a baby that died, and we had a father that was scrambling, asking all the midwives in the community to find breast milk for his baby. He wasn't thinking about suing anybody. He was trying to figure out how to feed his baby. Take care of this person that his wife was so excited to meet and wasn't even there to help take care of and raise. So that's a big part of it. To piggyback again, what Jennie and Claudia are saying is the consumer has the most power. If people start going on those hospital tours and saying, well, do you use Cytotec here for induction? Oh, okay, well then I don't want to birth here. If people start doing that, then the hospitals will stop using it.
And the aspect on this as well is that, again, I'm not here to malign the medical profession, but they don't always let you know where the actual incident started. So you're going to be in a position of not actually sure. Even with the reporting of deaths, the mother dies in the intensive care unit. She didn't die in the labor and delivery necessarily. She gets discharged from, well, she can't get discharged because she's passed on, but the family are left with this event ended in the intensive care. It's not even the maternity floor. You see, suddenly you've got this switch of maternal death, but not really. Right? The other thing you have to also consider is that there's probably around 40,000 annual near misses, and a near miss is where you didn't die. Right. You almost died. And that's somewhat of a non-event, because what are you reporting now? You're still alive. But how you got to be so ill or so debilitated may be as a result of the interventions. So women that are walking out of the hospital eventually, maybe not in a timely fashion, but they get out and have to go on with their lives, are not even hardly acknowledged or counted. So we have to learn more about the system and the understanding of the medical way of managing maternity to even be aware of some of these egregious harms that are being done. And people are just oblivious because no one's talking about it.
And I just want to put in, when it comes to suing, I'm a lawyer. You can sue anybody for anything. It doesn't mean you're going to win. And in this area, when you're talking, you have a woman come in who might have had an alcohol problem or a drug problem or had high blood pressure or didn't make all of her appointments or because she couldn't get a ride because she had kids at home and she couldn't take in her boss with and then she'd lose her job. And so then we get into comparative negligence. How can you say it was my fault when you didn't act right? The guilt, place the guilt on them.
Non-compliant.
Blame the mother. And so then it's like, well, I can't really sue because there was marijuana in their system, whatever, Yeah. And then when they go to figure out, and here's terrible, how much was the mother and the baby worth? They look at the useful life adjusted income for that person. And then disparities, marginalization, color, education, economics come in. And then it's like, how much is an inner city, 5th grade education, working nighttime, cleaning up in McDonald's, woman's life worth? And it's based on that. It's absolutely based on what they thought you would earn. And to a family who may have a member who is working 3 jobs just trying to pay the rent in states where hopefully we will continue to have a minimum wage after next Monday. It may not be worth very much. And that all the family's trying to do is figure out how can we get, now that she doesn't work at McDonald's, how can we get dinner tonight? Instead of eating out the trash can. The 2 largest lobbying groups in the United States of America are NRA and ACOG. The 2 largest and most funded lobbying groups in the United States are NRA, and how many people die every day in gun violence, and that ain't changed, and ACOG, who for 49 cents you put your life on the line instead of spending $250. And people will do until they run into the hand, until the consumers say, no more.
The childbirth educators are employed by the hospital. The hospital is allowing the doctors to use Cytotec. The hospital isn't going to allow for the childbirth educators to educate you properly about Cytotec that they shouldn't be using in their hospital on the labor and delivery floor for inducing labor. That's why. The childbirth educators, they have to do what the hospital tells them to do. They have to teach what the hospital tells them to teach. They have some leeway on some things. But the hospital is not going to let them teach anything that is going to affect the hospital's bottom line and how quickly they get people in and out of the labor and delivery.
Great question. So it falls in line with what these ladies were talking about, which is just empowerment and spreading awareness. And so I know Maddie and I have talked for years. Maddie has been such an inspiration for me as far as, like you said, just pushing through and continuing to spread awareness. So in direct response to your question, I would just say share, 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 share. Yeah. On YouTube, yeah, we will. We wanted to do this first. But yes, the answer is yes. There is a Facebook page, Tasha's Story from Life to Death in 10 hours. And if you are at all social media savvy, I highly encourage you to like the page and follow the page, because you'll stay up to date with the latest as far as, okay, here's a link, you can share it, you can email it to folks, however it works.
And also, I believe it will be added to the tasha.org website.
Yeah.
So anybody will be able to view it on the tasha.org website.
This is also an opportunity for anyone that is working in reproductive health. It doesn't matter if you're a doula, a childbirth educator, if you're someone that just really likes birth a lot. This is one of those ones that, just like when the Business of Being Born came out and everyone's like, you gotta watch this. This is one of those times where you're like, you guys should come over to my house, we're gonna watch this movie. You really need to see this. That's what you can do. If anyone's like, I don't know what I can, that's what you can do. So this, I had to get myself together because I was gonna like spit fire, like rap it at you. And I was like, let me pull myself together. So in Los Angeles, we had a doctor who decided to go against whatever his hospital norm was and do this thing for this family. They really wanted it. And it was a perfectly safe thing to do. It's something that midwives do all the time. But that hospital, they didn't deem that as medical. They didn't deem that as obstetric care. And there was a catastrophic, is what they call it, a catastrophic outcome. This catastrophic outcome could have happened at home, it could happen on the side of the road, it could have happened out in the desert in a yurt, but it just happened to happen in a hospital with an OBGYN physician. What happened is he got a slap on the wrist, the family was like, okay, we're not gonna sue you, and there was no monies or anything like that, it just kind of all got disappeared, it just went away. But that one physician to this day continues to give full informed consent about that incident because of his fear and his experience and his desire to make sure that people know all the pros and cons. And he continues to offer that procedure with the pros and cons of giving full, true, informed consent. So what we have here is the doctors that are having these catastrophic events, instead of being quiet and letting their malpractice cover their behind and letting the hospital cover their behind, they have to be willing to stand out and be like, I'm going to be a human being, and I'm going to talk about this to my patients. I'm going to talk about this to my clients. I'm going to talk about this to my family, and then I'm going to talk about this to my peers and educate them. Because this is something I do know as a Black woman, nobody wants to hear about Black women's problems from Black women. They want to hear from someone else. So it's the same thing for the physicians. Physicians don't want to hear it from, it's literally as simple as that. And so what's going to have to happen is it's going to have to be doctors that talk to doctors and say, hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. It's going to have to be doctors that go to their managers of the labor and delivery who don't even do birth, who've never done a birth. They just literally check the boxes of risk and profit. They're going to have to go to those people and say, we're not going to use this drug anymore. We want this drug off the unit. That's the only way that's going to work. The doulas, the midwives, the nurses, we can scream, we can holler, we can say, this is terrible, stop doing it. But the only ones they're going to listen to is each other. And so somebody has to come from behind the curtain and say, this is a really bad drug. We got to stop using it. This video in particular is something that could be taken to hospital administration and said, this is something that you need to watch. Whether or not they actually watch it, you can still take it to them. And as a consumer, they have to at least listen. Whereas they may not listen to a midwife, they may not listen to a nurse, they may not listen to a doula. But as a consumer with a nice big ripe belly with a live baby says, I saw this video and I was wondering if I could give this to the administration and if you could make sure some of the doctors see this. Or a group of doulas can say, hey, we'd love to have a meeting, or the group of midwives, we'd love to have a meeting, and can we share this video with you? Now, what they do with it after the fact is something different, but they can't say they didn't know. They can't say that no one said anything to them. And maybe we'll get to them through guilt. Maybe we'll get to them through seeing the other side. The folks that aren't taking a paycheck, Maddie. The folks that aren't saying, okay, well, I don't really have a lawyer, I don't have support to fight. Maybe they will just see the long-standing repercussions of this, the families without mothers, the babies without mothers, the partners without partners, the single parents that are left behind, or the orphans that are left behind. That's the only way that I can think that we're going to affect change with them in particular. But more than anything, it has to be them talking to each other.
Or have a demonstration at the hospital, outside, and call all the news, and have posters with the pictures of the dead mothers and babies on it. They show up every week. Go to the physician's parking lot where they park their car and wait for them. Here's a cup of coffee and look at this picture. Okay? I mean, we women also tend to always want to play nice in the sandbox. We always want to play the way our grandmothers taught us to play. My mother always says this about me, and I will confess it because you figured it out. In the morning, Claudia starts off being my daughter, but by night, she's her daddy's child. And sometimes you have to take it to the street, and you have to take it to the street with righteousness, and for the next while, we need to think about some of those old ways that we used to have to do that. And it's really nice because this is a financial issue for them. The system is broke, and the system runs not on care for the maternity people, but on money. The system is broken. The system works on money, efficacy. So if you start bringing down some unpopular publicity to their hospital and talk about, for 49 cents, you killed this lady, okay? Then it makes it more difficult for them to continue to do that. If you have people who show up and say, I'm going home, and when I go home, I'm calling the newspaper and the press and say why I left your hospital. And if you have parents who are brave enough to file a complaint at the hospital for whatever nurse says to you, if you don't take off that blue polish, your baby's going to die, because you can file a complaint against them. Start filing complaints against them, okay? We can do those things, and those are the kinds of things that I don't care if you feel bad about it. I want you to stop doing it.
Yep.
You know, I don't care if you feel bad. I want you to stop doing it. You know, we were all children, and your parents would spank you, and you'd say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And they said, sorry, I didn't do this. Stop doing what you're doing. Stop it. He said to you, stop. So we need to start looking at that as how can we, as grassroots guardians of our next generation, the generation here, be more proactive. Because we cannot expect our marginalized community women and pregnant individuals to come in there and be able to fight fights that middle-class white women can't fight, okay? We have to be there to stand up for the most fragile in our communities.